As we finish 1 Corinthians 7 today, I think we've really seen Paul's heart, right? Certainly he has focused on themes like singleness and marriage, and he's given us a lot of insight into these. But his theme is much broader than just pertaining to relationships. And today, we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. I think it really boils down to verse 35 and wanting us to be undistracted in our mission in life. So here's chapter 7, verse 35. I am saying this for your own good, not to restrict you, but that you may live in a right way in undivided devotion to the Lord. So what are some keys in our lives for us to avoid a mission drift? And as a result, to keep the main thing the main thing. And so I want to continue to tap into the insight of David Platt from his book, Radical. And some of the things he says is this, like the key is realizing and believing that this world is not our home. And if you and I ever hope to be free to live lives that are free from worldly dreams, worldly ideals, worldly values, worldly ambitions, and worldly actions, then we have to focus on another world. Right? If our lives are going to count on earth, we must start by concentrating on heaven. For then and only then will you and I be free to live for radical risk, knowing that what awaits us is radical reward. Right? If our devotion is divided between God and this world, we're going to be hard pressed to risk that which our affections are constantly pulled towards. So in light of this chapter on singleness and marriage and being content where God has called you, I thought it would be a fitting story to share of a woman named Janessa Wells. She was a young woman who was fresh out of college and had a ton of potential. And so with many opportunities before her, she decided to go to the Middle East among a people who had never heard the gospel. Before she went, Janessa wrote to her friends, I could give up going overseas and get married and become a music teacher. And she said, all of this sounds very noble, and quite honestly, it sounds very good. But in my heart, I want to change the world more than I want a husband and more than I want comfort. I want to tell others about Jesus. And I think that story so much depicts the main thrust of chapter 7 from Paul. He's saying, hey, let's have our faith, our calling, let's that be the driving force, and then all these other things can add and aid us in that. Now, clearly, most of us are not going to have the same type of specific calling as Janessa. However, like her, we are all called to make sure that the things in life, even the things we enjoy, don't become our main pursuit. And while there is a certain level of fear, I think, in embracing this prospect, there is much freedom and joy in being able to wholeheartedly give ourselves to the mission of all missions. I think it's so easy in our faith to dread the very thing that is so life-giving and so life-altering. So a couple questions I want to leave you with. In your particular life and context, what would it look like to no longer have an undivided devotion to God? And then second, what specifically about your life would look different if you dove head first into the mission that God has called you into?